My name is Jonathan Cordamash, and I am a makeup artist.
Okay. And what is your drag name?
My name is Fernanda Vargas West. There's that Fernanda says and does that I would never do, you know? But it's just because the wig gives you the power to do that.
Can you just start by introducing yourself?
Like my real boy name or like what?
Start with your
My name is Michael Browder, and I go by the illusion of Aubrey Galici when I do drag.
Welcome to the stage, Aubrey Galici!
And there's different kinds of drags. There's the dark drags, there's the pretty drag queens, there's the pageant drag queens, there's comedy queens. I know there's a lot of drag queens that do illusions that make themselves look like the artist. I'm more of a little of everything. Like I just play with drag. When I'm out of drag, I'm kind of shy, believe it or not. Like I'm very shy when I'm out. When I put makeup on, I guess I become somebody else. It's like my alter ego. A lot of people tell me that when I'm in drag, I'm like a bitch. And I just feel like I'm the same person, but I'm definitely shy when I'm not in drag.
The Latino community, the Latino drag community, it's more towards impersonation. So you have to look like the person that you're that you're impersonating. You have to have the same dress. You have to have the same ring that's on this finger. I like the concept of the American drag, where you create your persona. So you create your persona, and that persona actually performs to whatever you want to perform. You feel whatever you want to feel, and then you put that into your act. When it comes to me being on stage, there's a lot of Johnny, because I also sing, and I've performed, and so I do see a lot of me in Fernanda when it comes to outside of performing and just walking into the bar and saying hi to people, or just talking to people at the bar. It's completely different.
People started seeing Fernanda Vargas West in his everyday life, so his mannerisms of Fernanda do come out in Johnny. But Fernanda's so different. I kind of disappear when Fernanda's around. Not that he does it on purpose, but there are so many people pulling her in different directions, wanting to talk to her, wanting a photo, so that's not who he is. It's just a part of him. He doesn't live Fernanda 24 hours a day.
When I first started doing shows, I didn't have a drag name. And people told me I needed a drag name. So I was doing Barbara Streisand and Joan Rivers, like any good queen. And so I picked Barbara. And at first I was Barbara Richards because my boy name was Richard. But it sounded too tranny.
I've been performing as a professional female impersonator for over 20 years, almost 25. I took my name because I wanted a fun name, but I didn't want a stupid name like Gloria Hole or I Need a Rich Man or anything like that. So I picked Barbara Seville because of the opera Barbara of Seville. But if you don't get it, it's still a perfectly fine drag name. I am a drag queen for hire, a gender illusion technician, independent contractor. And I think one of the reasons that I've been successful is because so much of it is authentic. It really is me. I stand up a little bit taller because of the heels, it makes you straighten your posture a little bit more, but I don't see too much difference, to be honest with you. And it's not that I'm Barbara off stage, it's just that I bring this to the stage.
So I first met Barbara Seville before Barbara was even born. Before Barbara was born, she was Richard Stevens, and still is, of course, but Richard was first. And Barbara is, unlike a lot of drag performers in town or in the country that he uses his own material to connect with other people, to connect with his audience. He does lip sync and he does perform popular numbers, but mostly he communicates with the audience, and he's very funny, and he knows what's going on. He stays up to date on current events, and I would say I love Barbara much better than I do Richard, but you have to take one with the other.
I believe drag is a little more mainstream now than it was 5 years ago even. You know, we're not gonna go 10 years or when I started doing drag. I mean, now to see a drag queen is not as shocking as it was back in the days.
People have discovered that there's money to be made on drag. I'm in a chat group with some friends on Facebook, and I was just telling them, this bar wants to do drag, this restaurant wants to do drag. I just got an offer from a restaurant I would have, number one, never gone to in drag 10 years ago. Even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have ever thought they wanted to do drag, but I'm talking to them about doing a monthly show for them. So people have realized that there's a way to make money on drag. I don't know that it's more respected or appreciated though.
I think there's still sometimes a negative opinion about the art craft and the performance art of female impersonation, but it's, I'm not really sure exactly what that's attached to, but whenever I would watch a documentary about female impersonation or drag queens, it was always somewhat dark. It was like they connected that automatically with the gay lifestyle, and they connected that automatically with AIDS, and so people just had a direct. They felt like that was the place that they could see it and say, oh yeah, that's directly related to AIDS, that's not good, or it's a stereotype of what homosexuals are. So sometimes even people in the gay community would have issues with female impersonators because they felt like female impersonators were giving the gay lifestyle a negative stereotype to the rest of the world. And you know, it's different now that it seems like younger people just seem to have a better understanding and more compassion for people of other lifestyles. It's definitely better than it was, but I'm sure there's still some negative thoughts towards it, but I don't hang out with those people anymore. So I don't hear that as much.
I think now it's more acceptable because of a lot of TV shows.
TV has opened up everybody's minds, and it's definitely helped.
It was very hard when I started because it wasn't so common. Like, it was a very few of us doing it, and drag has changed so much. Like makeup wise, costume wise, the shows have changed. Like, it's so different from when I started 8 years ago.
It's come so far that I just last Wednesday before my show, I was invited to one of those. It's kind of like a talk show, and it wasn't a gay thing. It was a straight show that's Facebook Live kind of thing. But you can also go because it happens at a bar, and you know, just the response to people when I got there was just amazing. You know, so I believe they want to see more of it.
The biggest difference between when I started drag and now is drag had a little more prestige and a little more mystery to it, and today everybody wants to do drag. Everybody's in drag, and I guess that's cool, but I don't know, I think a part of what makes it what it is the danger or the forbidden part of it or the clandestine part of it. But drag is it's by no means is it worldwide accepted. I know there are still people who aren't into it, but you know, it's everywhere. We're inundated with it, and I think it's a little less special.
There was a point where, like, I don't know if you guys know, but like a lot of drag queens, we do like not just in the bar, like we also do like outside events. So there's like a lot of, obviously, a straight crowd, and there was a point where actually the straight crowd was more accepting than the gay community.
I remember when I first started doing drag, the whole drag scene was very fragmented. There were queens that only worked uptown. There were queens that only worked downtown. The Latina queens, specifically when I say that, like they were Spanish speaking or only Spanish speaking or primarily Spanish speaking. You know, they had their clubs that they performed in too.
It was very like divided, like the Latin drag queens and the white drag queens and other races. We were very divided. They stayed on their clubs, we stayed in our bars.
And for a while, it stayed that way.
But now it's like, we work all together.
When drag started becoming more accepted, and again, people started making money on it, you started seeing some of those barriers come down. I think that's just a sign of Arizona and a sign of America in general, that everything is just becoming more intermeshed. And as the Latino population increases, you know, that representation has to be there. You know, you can't expect Latinos to come to your bar if you have no Latinos on your stage or working behind the bar.
We're all mixed now. We work at all the bars together, not like before.
When I first started inviting some of the girls from the Latino audience into my shows, they would all show up doing Pink and Cher and Shania Twain. And I was like, what are you doing? You know, come do what you do, be yourself, that's what I want you.
My family has always been super supportive of me. My mom has been to 2 of my shows. She missed the 3rd one and I'm gonna yell at her, I haven't talked to her. But no, they're all very supportive. My brothers, I have 2 brothers, I'm the oldest of 2 brothers in a Mexican household. They're super cool, and so is my dad. My grandpa, you know, the biggest Mexican macho that I've ever met. It's super cool with me. I have a lot of friends that are not supported, and I do think it's a shame, but thankfully that wasn't my case.
I'm the only husband or boyfriend or that actually goes to the shows and supports, you know, their significant other. I don't understand it. I don't want to say it's not a support thing, but to me, that's what it looks like. Either they're not comfortable with them being in drag, or they just don't want to see them in drag, so they don't show up.
My brothers, they don't say anything. I have 2 brothers. My mom loves it, of course, because I get to dress her up too, so she loves when I do her makeup. She loves coming to the shows. She supports me 100%. It's an amazing feeling. Like, even I'm a pageant queen, so like even like when I run for pageants, my mom's there, and like when we have on-stage questions, they have asked me like, who's your biggest supporter? And like I break down because my mom's my biggest supporter, and that I think that's amazing because a lot of the LGBT community doesn't have support from their family. So I guess I'm lucky that my mom supports me. Some family don't. They think it's bad because of religion and stuff, but I've always said since day one, as long as my mom supports me, that's all that matters.
I grew up around a little bit of religion, but I also grew up with religion sort of being a problem. Like my mom's side of the family wasn't down with my dad's side of the family, and so everybody in my family knows what I do, and most of them have been to one of my shows. Some of them have been in my shows. Some of them have helped me with costumes or sets or whatever. Yeah, so it hasn't been a problem.
Yeah. This was her night, and she worked so hard for it. I'm so proud of them.
Drag families, unfortunately, are a really long-standing thing, and it comes from a sad place. It comes from people looking for a mother figure or a father figure because, you know, they were put out by their family or, you know, unaccepted by their family.
There are some people who are very, they need to have a drag mother to feel safe. I guess I didn't, you know, I didn't need anybody's last name.
In my case, my drag mom, it didn't come from that. I became really good friends with a mentor and someone who had sort of given me a lot of opportunities, and someone who actually reminded me of my mom a little bit. A drag mom is a good thing, you know. It's somebody who can, number one, give you advice, someone who can tell you, hey girl, don't go down this road, hey, that's a good way to get cut off in this business, or hey, you know, don't talk to people that way, or I don't know. I think A drag mom can also be somebody who puts you in drag for the first time and then just lets you into the wild. I take all that a little bit seriously, and there are a lot of people who've asked me to be their drag mom, and I'm like, let's just be friends, you know, here, you know, I like you and all, but I don't want to be accountable for whatever mess you create in your life. I don't want my name attached to it.
To be completely honest, I don't think I'm gonna give my last name to anybody. I don't think I'm gonna have any daughters. I will lend a hand to somebody who needs it, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna be my daughters. That's just the way I see it. But oh yeah, like you don't with anybody in the mamas because they go crazy.
The few people that I have really believed in and sort of bought into and invested in, you know, I'm proud to call them, you know, drag children or whatever. And I've made really great friends through the drag community. You know, really great friends, solid, true friends, people who are also performers, and then also people who just originally came into my life from the audience, you know, and now, you know, we're friends and we, you know, have more in common than just drag or just Barbara Seville.
Queens are bullies. I've never actually been bullied outside of the drag community. Isn't it sad? Isn't it sad how like we fight and we want all this equal rights and we speak of like how people discriminate like against us and we're like horrible with each other.
It's sad, but it's true. There's a lot of jealousy, not just in the gay community, but like between the drag queens. There's always like jealousy because someone has better costumes, someone has better hair, someone has better makeup.
In any field of entertainment, there are only so many spots. Well, in any job, actually, there's only so many spots to work as a cameraman, to work as a lighting director, to work in any capacity. So there is a competition to get the good spots. But as far as just the silliness, no, I had a few experiences when I was really young, when I started doing drag, where I must have threatened a more established entertainer or an older queen because they just would not ever give me a chance and would just do whatever they could do to undercut me. But they would never just be mean. I mean, they would never call me fat or stupid or untalented. They would just not give me opportunities or give me opportunities and then take them away at the last minute or do the music they knew that I was gonna try to do.
There's queens that are just like peeking on like newer queens. I see it every week and it's just like, why are you doing that? I don't get it. I guess it's just because I would never do that. I feel like I'm in a position of power right now because I have a microphone and I will use it rightfully, not just to like talk shit. But I do want to put some on their place. Like, bullying needs to stop.
The one thing I tell Johnny is that you're all here doing the same thing. You're not trying to better one or the other. You're just you're doing a show for the audience. So, you know, he just has to let that go. That's how drag queens are. They're very catty. So he just needs to, you know, look above that and move on. And I don't think he really lets it affect him. You know, he knows. He's not a young drag queen, he's an older drag queen, so he knows, you know, how to just leave it where it is and go on.
The cattiness, most of it's in good fun. Most of it, here's what I always tell people. If I'm not talking to you, that's when you should be concerned. If I'm teasing you, or if I offer you advice, or if I give you a compliment, that's good. But if I don't even talk to you, that's when you should be like, oh, what did I do to Barbara?
You know, it's just part of the experience, and there's a lot of very sensitive, frail egos going on there. You know, these are artists who are putting themselves out there and feel really comfortable for the most part in what they're doing, and then somebody else comes in and says, I'm better and I'm gonna beat you and I'm gonna win and I got more money or I got more costumes, and it can get very competitive and in not so pretty of a way. That's in any arena, I believe, with art and doing with art and competition. And so I don't think that that's necessarily more evident in that community. I just think it's a lot louder.
It's gonna sound bad, but I hate
being in drag. I do it for fun. And now I guess I do it because I have to. You guys don't know the pain that we go through. And I'm just speaking like the process to get ready. You guys just see the glamorous side, like, oh, she looks beautiful. All the stuff that we have to put away and with tape and all that stuff.
One of my friends was here while I was getting ready. She didn't know when I was getting ready, and I came downstairs without pants on. So I just wanted to grab a bottle of water. And she saw me and she's like, how are you gonna pee? I was like, well, I don't. I don't until we come back home, because I know that I spent at least 20 to 30 minutes shaping my body. And if I move anything, I'm not gonna be happy with it.
The amount of time it takes for me to get ready is a running joke in Phoenix, because if I have 15 minutes, I will be ready in 15 minutes. If I have 2 hours, I'll get ready in 2 hours. But to feel my best and look my best, I probably need 90 minutes. But to be honest, most of the time it's 45 minutes. Sometimes it's 30 minutes.
It's a lot of work, a lot of dedication. Drag is very expensive. If you want to look good, it's going to cost you money.
People really don't have an idea of how much money it takes. Drag, it's extremely expensive. And it's not well paid at all. I mean, we're working towards a better future, but it's not well paid, and it does take a lot of money to look the way we do, you know. It's ridiculous. Like a wig can go from $80 to $150, and you get paid $40 per show sometimes. So, you know, and that's just the wig. That doesn't, you know, makeup, costume, shoes, tights, all that stuff. A finished look, for me, can go from $400 to $600.
It's definitely not as easy as it looks. It's not just being pretty.
I have not built a career as an entertainer on being a beauty queen, because even when I do my best, I'm still never going to be as beautiful as some of these other people. So I just don't care. And most of my favorite entertainers weren't beauty queens either. So I've put all of my time and money into being funny and entertaining, because that will probably not age, and it won't go away if I gain 50 pounds, or it won't go away if I age 35 years. You know, funny will always be funny, and entertaining will always be entertaining.
When I was 15 years old, I ran away from home, and I was fortunate enough that I had this old 1977 red Buick LeSabre, and it was a 4-door sedan, and it was huge. And so I would sleep in the car, which there was plenty of room because it was huge. But the best place for me to be, I thought, was in the parking lot of a gay bar in our area. This was in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was called the OP. The drag queens would come out to take a break and cool off from their performance. They would see me in this big, huge red car and say, like, you know, what's your story? Why are you always out here? And I'm like, well, you know what, I feel safe out here. I don't have a place to live right now. And so I know if anything were to happen, I could always run in there and get help, and people would help me. So the next day, she came out again, and she brought me like a can of Dinty Moore stew. And then the next night, you know, her and another drag queen would come out and then start talking to me, and then gave me, you know, another thing of Dinty Moore stew. Talking to me about why I was homeless at the time, and why I'd run away, and what was happening. And I had come out to my family, and as supportive as they were later, at the time they were not supportive at all. One of the performers welcomed me into their home, and it was very nurturing, and just my image and my thoughts and my ideas about who they were as a people was completely changed. So I ended up back home and going to school, but I would say within 10 years, all of those friends were gone, and AIDS had shown its face. Unfortunately, it took all of them, and as they were dying, people were saying terrible things about them and how they were terrible people because they died of AIDS, and they must have been gay and they must have been bad people. And all I knew is they fed me every night and gave me a place to stay, and never asked for anything from me. So I always had a place in my heart for them. And so when I heard somebody later in my life, after I moved to Arizona, when I would mention, oh, there's a drag show, you want to go? And somebody would say, oh my gosh, those things are awful, they give us a bad name, or they're all sleazy, or it's all about, sex. I was like, no, I'm sorry, you're thinking of something else, because that's not what's going on here. So you need to come and let me show you. And so I did the documentary so that hopefully people could see them outside of their images, internal images that they've constructed over the years from other people's opinions or from stereotypes. And it's my thank you for feeding me stew.